بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الواصفين. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين وبالقاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا أقسم بهذا البلد وأنت حل بهذا البلد ووالد وما ولد لقد خلقنا الإنسان في كبد. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صل على محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The verses that I recited are from Surah Balad, chapter number 90. And I had the pleasure of reciting the first 4 ayat. We officially welcome the month of Muharram al-Haram of the year 1438. As tonight, or today rather, was the first of the month. Well, if you remember the discussion that we had started, and you might be wondering as to what the topic of discussion might be, I did hint towards it as I will be using different verses in the beginning of my speech. For the last night and tonight, I recited these verses from Surah Balad. But that's not going to be the case, inshallah, moving forward. All in all, the discussions, inshallah, will have a flavor of touching briefly upon this book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Quran Hakim, and as well as deriving lessons from Ashura. Inshallah, we'll try our best with the tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to address these two in the nights to come, hopefully keeping you interested in the discussions and as well as learning a thing or two. While I was doing my research in presentation, what to present to you guys, I learned a great deal out of the lessons that could be derived from Ashura. Indeed, it's an institution where we can look at it from various different aspects and govern our lives accordingly. But just to translate as to the verses that I recited, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like many other chapters of Quran, it starts this chapter by taking an oath. He says, La uqsimu bihadal balad. That indeed I swear by this city. Wa anta hillum bihadal balad. And the reason and the purpose behind taking an oath is not because city of Makkah has any specialty in it, which it is. It's the central place for the Muslim Ummah. It has so many historical places, but that's not why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taking an oath. He gives the explanation in the next ayah by saying, وَأَنْتَ حِلٌّ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ. The mere reason that I'm swearing and taking an oath and showing importance to this city is because of your wujud in this city. If you did not exist in this city, then I would not have taken an oath by this city. And from here we understand the concept of Kamal and Tamam. Two words that I presented, both used in Arabic, in Persian, and as well as in Farsi. At one point, something is tamam, which means it's complete, but not necessarily it has reached kamal, which is perfection. We translate these two words as complete or perfect. And what's the difference between the two? It's very simple. For example, you construct, a house or a building. From the aspect of materialistic or materials that is used, it is complete. The structure is complete, but it might not have reached its kamal yet, perfection. When will it reach its kamal? When someone starts residing in it. Or for example, you build a mosque. From the structural aspect, it is complete. Every little final detail has been taken care of. But until you start praying in this salah, in this masjid, until this masjid starts delivering the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is incomplete. It hasn't reached that level of perfection. So from that aspect, we understand that how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using Prophet being in the city of Mecca to be in its perfect state. Or if I can give you another example, that the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah who is beyond time and space. He's not confined to any time, nor is he confined to any space. Because if that was the case, he would exit the uluhiyat for that matter. You go ahead and study the first khutbah from Nahjul Balagha. Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam al-Muttaqeen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam, very beautifully does the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, attributes, saying that he cannot be attributed. If you can attribute him, you have limited him. When you limit him, he exits the realm of uluhiyat, because we don't believe in someone who's limited. God is unlimited. He's not limited. He could not be confined to any space or time. But there are two things that God has associated with himself. One is a time. Second is a space. Time is in the month of Ramadan. He calls it to be what? Shahrullah. Not that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is limited, but he's associating himself with that particular time. And then there's a house that God has associated himself with, which is Baytullah. He's not confined to that house. It's just a sense of direction for Muslimin so that they turn towards that Qibla and they perform their salat. So it's called Baytullah. Those, obviously, there are a lot of Arabs sitting over here. You can understand the word Bayt literally refers to a house which is inhabited. Otherwise, you don't call it a Bayt. Bayt comes from Bata Yabito or Baytuta. You might have heard the word Qaylula, right? That afternoon nap that we don't have anymore. That you take just a little nap is called Qaylula. We only heard about it. We never got a chance to take it. Similarly, there's Baytuta. Qaylula is during the daytime. Baytuta is at night. A house in which night is spent is called Bayt. There's no one lived in that house. Why is it Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calling it Baytullah? Here we understand until the wiladat ba-sa'adat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam al-Muttaqeen in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not take place, that house might have been the Kaaba, but it did not become the Qibla of Muslimin. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. So from that wiladat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, it becomes what? Baytullah. So here going back to that discussion, the tamam and the kamal that I was mentioning, we see that both of these words Allah has put together in one ayah. That ayat which you recite in Surah Ma'idah, which begins by saying, Al-Yawm akmaltu lakum deenakum. In fact, the ayah begins from before. It says, Al-Yawm ya'isa alladhina kafaru min deenikum. Today is the day when kuffar are in complete despair. They've lost hope. فَلَا تَخْشَوْهُمْ وَخْشَوْنِي. Do not be afraid of them. Be scared of me. Be afraid of me. Al-yawm akmaltu lakum dinakum wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati. So you see how the usage of the word kamal and tamam has appeared in one ayat. But what is he using the word kamal and tamam for? He said, Al-yawm akmaltu lakum dinakum. Deen is not something materialistic. Here we understand kamal has to do with immaterial and spiritual things. وَأَتْمَمْتُ عَلَيْكُمْ نِعْمَتِي. And I have completed my favors unto you. And tamamiyat, completion, has to do with something which is materialistic. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses both of these words. But let's look at it. Why today kuffar are in despair? Why weren't they in despair from before? This ayat is muttafaq alayh, was revealed. It's one of the last of the verses of Quran that it was revealed. It was revealed around the time when that ayat was revealed. Ya ayyuhar rasul, balligh ma unzila ilayka min rabbik. O Prophet, propagate what has been revealed unto you. فَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلْ فَمَا بَلَّغْتَ رِسَالَتَهُ. And if you do not propagate what has just been revealed unto you, then you haven't done your duty of tabligh. وَاللَّهُ يَعْصِمُكَ مِنَ النَّاسِ. And Allah will protect you from the evil of those who are thinking about causing evil. Why up until this point kuffar are not in despair? When Battle of Badr was won by Muslimin, this ayat should have been revealed at that time. That today kuffar are in despair. When they were defeated in the subsequent battles, this ayat should have been revealed. If anything, this ayat should have been revealed in Fatih Makkah, the conquest of Makkah. When Muslimin won back, they were victorious over that which was taken away from them, the city of Makkah. وَأَنْتَ حِلٌّ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ. Connect all of those things. No, this ayat was not revealed. Yes, there was an ayat that was revealed. Many verses were revealed at that time, such as, the ayat which talks about Surah Nasr, basically completely Surah Nasr talks about the Fath of Makkah. But this ayat was not revealed then. Some people say this ayat is talking about the ahkam ilahi, the wujub of namaz. No, that is not the case. If I can just ask you to move a little bit forward, there's a lot of room. I think there are people coming in the back and it's difficult for them to find space. With a loud nara salawat. There's more room right here. One more loud salawat. Yeah, when they're close by, it seems, there's intimacy and there's more fun in reciting when people are touching the mimbar actually. But that's okay, you can just stay this fun. That this ayat, people say, was revealed when namaz became wajib. That, oh Prophet, tabligh, do the tabligh of namaz. No. Muslimin have been praying all these years. He said then this ayat in regards to tabligh might be referring towards the fasting of the month of Ramadan. He said, no, that's not the case either. Muslims have been fasting for many years. He said, and this ayat must have been revealed for the wujub of Hajj. He said, no, Muslims are actually coming back from Hajj. This ayat is not revealed for any of those furu'id that you're referring to. This ayat is revealed because if that was the case, kuffar were not in despair after the loss in Badr. They were still not in despair after Fatih Makkah. They were not in despair when these ibadat were being made wajib and Muslimin were practicing them. They still had hope, which they had said initially, that, oh Prophet, when you leave this world, you don't have any child. Your legacy will end. Right? As ibn Wa'il, father of Amr ibn As, who said this to Prophet, that, oh Prophet, you are abtar. Thus Allah revealed this ayat, Inna shani'aka huwal abtar. So they predicted that you will not have any legacy. We don't have to do anything to you. The moment you leave this world, nobody's going to carry your name because you don't have any sons. And thus this ayat was revealed. Kuffar still had hope that when Prophet leaves, it'll all go back to being normal again. Until Prophet announced what? His successor. And only then kuffar had lost the hope. And Quran is testifying. Al-yawm ya'isa alladhina kafaru min dinikum. Today is the day that these kuffar are in complete despair and they have lost all the hope of whatever they were planning on doing. So we look at Quran from this aspect. That Prophet is being called, that reason you are in this city is the reason that I'm swearing by it. وَأَنْتَ حِلٌّ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ. So therefore my request is that we ponder over this book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because it's not kitabe mamat, rather it's kitabe hayat. We've made this Quran into kitabe mamat, the book for the dead. When do we use it? When someone dies. When there's Fatiha Khani. When someone leaves this world, we recite Surah Yasin on them. We recite Surah Mulk on them. We recite these ayat and these surahs, and Quran Khani is done only for Soyam or Chehlom or Barsi of that person. And then this book is placed back onto that top shelf where nobody can reach it. Keep it away from the reach of children. So there's so much dust settling on top of it that you can literally perform tayammum. When you're traveling, this book will be used to, hawa laga do jaane ke liye. A little bit wind from the Quran, you pass under Quran. People get married, they'll pass underneath this Quran. That's the usage of Quran, unfortunately, in our lives. I'm not saying that's the case across the board, but I'm saying majority of us have limited this Quran only for these things. Whereas Quran was not revealed just for these particular things. There's more into this Quran if you were to go ahead and look into it. Our fourth Imam, Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salatu wasalam, said it. لو مات ما بين المشرق والمغرب. If everything perished between the east and the west, and there was nothing, but all I had this Quran, I will not have one bit of wahshat. I will not feel any terror if this Quran was with me. Obviously, Imam is referring towards what's in this Quran. Remember, when this book was revealed to our Prophet, we call this to be a miracle of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Because at that time, Arabs were bragging about what? Their ability to write poetry and their ability to write prose. And Arabic literature was something which was booming at that time. And to counter that, Allah had to produce a book like this. And that's why, unfortunately, some of our brothers in faith thought that Prophet was illiterate. Yes, he did not attend any worldly institution. That's true. But that does not mean if you did not attend any worldly institution, you're illiterate. Prophet knew how to read and write. But the fact that he remained and did not write a word for first 40 years, so that when this book is produced, nobody would say, Muhammad sat for 40 years and wrote this book. When this book is revealed onto our Prophet, it's revealed as a miracle. And that's why you go ahead and search for those challenging verses. There are verses in Quran which are called ayat tahaddi. Tahaddi means to challenge someone. For example, I'm challenging you to prove this. It was an open challenge from Quran. First challenge you find in Surah Baqarah. In kuntum fi raybin mimma nazzalna ala abdina fa'atu bisuratin min mithlihi wad'u shuhadakum in kuntum sadiqin. If you have one little bit of doubt, in kuntum fi raybin mimma nazzalna ala abdina, that which we have revealed unto our Prophet, unto our servant, then go ahead and produce a chapter like this. Produce a book like this. Suratan minhum, or a chapter like this. When they weren't able to, and God said, go ahead and produce all your help if you want to. Get all the help you want to. But they were not able to do so. Quran lowered the challenge. You start out with something difficult, and then you lower it, looking at the ability of the person. Second challenge, I believe it's in Surah Taha. فَأْتُوا بِعَشْرِ سُوَرٍ مِّن مِثْلِهِ. Bring forth 10 chapters like this, if you're capable of doing so. They weren't able to. Quran lowered the challenge even further. It said, bring one hadith like the likes of this book. They weren't able to. Then the last Quran said, if all the men and the jinn were to get together and produce a book like this, they will never be able to do so. That's the miracle of Quran. What's hidden in it? We only get something from this Quran when science proves it, and then we find it in Quran. It should not be used this way when science has proved and then now it's in Quran. It should be the other way around. And so we look at it that this book is life, is book for our life, and it's not book for those who are deceased and dead. And that is the reason our first Imam very clearly mentions this. You know, some people say you go to the extent of, you know, you become so exaggerating when you say that stars, or rather the angels, used to come down to the house of Bibi Sayyidah, for example. I say, you Shias, you exaggerate a great deal. Angels would only come to Prophet. What are they doing coming down to the house of, you know, Fatima al-Zahra or Ali ibn Abi Talib and so on and so forth? And so I'll give you an example. If you were to follow this formula, angels will come to your doorstep as well. Imam said, إن البيت الذي يقرأ فيه القرآن ويذكر الله عز وجل فيه. A house in which Quran is recited and God is often remembered. تكثر barakatuhu. The blessings increase. تحضره الملائكة. The angels come to this house. وتهجره الشياطين. And the shayateen stay away from this house. وَتُضِيءُ لِأَهْلِ السَّمَاءِ كَمَا تُضِيءُ الْكَوَاكِبْ لِأَهْلِ الْأَرْضِ. And this house shines for the inhabitants of heavens, similarly how the stars shine for the inhabitants of earth. When you look up on the sky and you see at night all these stars shining, when the inhabitants of heavens look down upon earth, they see stars shining. These are the houses in which Quran is recited. These are the houses in which God is remembered. And then Imam completed the hadith by saying, إِنَّ الْبَيْتَ الَّذِي لَا يُقْرَوْ فِيهِ الْقُرْآنِ وَلَا يُذْكَرُ اللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ فِيهِ. House in which Quran is not recited. House in which Allah is not remembered. What happens to that house? تَقِلُّ بَرَكَتُهُ. Barakat decrease. You know, sometimes we question why blessings are not coming towards us. تَهْجُرُهُ الْمَلَائِكَةِ. Malaika stay away from this house. وَتَهْضُرُهُ الشَّيَاطِينَ. Shayateen gain access to such houses. He said, don't convert your houses to be the houses in which shayateen are gaining access to. So indeed, this book is for everyone. The one who brought this book is called Rahmatan lil Alameen, right? He is Rahmah for all of mankind. Then why do you limit this book only for yourselves? Maulana, we don't want to give it to non-Muslims. Maybe they'll, you know, dishonor this book and so on and so forth. No. If you know that they will not do such a thing, you only have a doubt, there's nothing wrong. Give them the translation, let them read. In fact, giving Quran is probably not the best idea to, you know, someone who's just converting, because there's so many verses in Quran that require explanation. And if they don't have proper explanation, then they will be misled. Yes, Quran could be misleading. I'll repeat, Quran can be misleading. And that is the reason Prophet, when he left, he said, Inni tarikum fikum thaqalain. I'm leaving behind two weighty things, not one. Because if you were to take just one of the two, then you will definitely not gain that success. Quran by itself could lead to mistakes and could lead to, you know, problems. As was the case in the Battle of Siffin. All they had was Quran lifted above the spears. What happened? The Ummah went towards it, abandoning Quran and Atiq in the form of Amirul Mu'mineen. So that's why you need both of them. You say, oh, we don't want to give Quran to someone. No, let them read. Share this book with them. Don't just keep it to yourself. We say, well, we don't want to increase. It might not be the case that you're trying to increase demographically the madhab tashayyu. But you still are obligated to bring people out of ignorance from darkness towards light. يخرجونهم من النور من الظلمات إلى النور. That's your duty. You have to perform that. So give this book, let them read, because Quran is for everyone. Don't just, a lot of time people say, well, then what about this ayat which says, Alif Lam Mim Dhalikal Kitab La Raiba Fi Hudan Lil Muttaqin. If Quran is for everyone, then why is it God limiting it for Muttaqin? That Alif Lam Mim, that is a book. Dhalikal Kitab La Raiba Fi. There's no doubt in it. And it's guidance for Muttaqin. You just told me Quran is for everyone. Why did Quran limit itself for Muttaqin only? No, that is not the case. When you look at Quran from your own mentality and from your own perspective, then you will get to such conclusions as people have. And I'll mention certain other doubts as far as that exist in Quran. That's not the case. And I'll give you an example so the youngsters over here would understand. When you look at the weather, it says tomorrow is going to rain in Austin, for example. When it rains, do the clouds look at where I should have more rain and where I shouldn't have less? I should rain more on the desert area or less on the desert area and more on the fertile lands? Because desert is not going to have any benefit. I shouldn't have rain on the asphalt or concrete or on the mountains. No, rain does not see or is not prejudice. It rains everywhere. It'll rain all over. But who is going to benefit from this rain properly? The desert or the fertile land? Definitely the land which has capability of producing something, not a desert, not a mountainous area. So therefore, Quran is the same way. It belongs to everyone. Only those who are muttaqeen will be able to benefit from this book. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And so we see that this Quran definitely is something which we need to focus and turn our attention towards. Inshallah, every day, every night, I'll bring a little bit from this book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But going back to our discussion that we left off last night, that indeed we created mankind in pain and difficulty. So we mentioned that nobody is spared from this pain and this difficulty, right? Every person goes through the difficult times. Whether you're poor, you're rich. Whether you're zalim or you're mazloom. Whether you're mu'min or ghayr mu'min. Whether you're nabi or ghayr nabi. Every single person faces trials and tribulations. And more so if you are at the higher and the higher rank, more trials will come towards you. We looked at the life of Hazrat Nuh last night. Look at the life of Hazrat Ibrahim tonight. The Quran says to Hazrat Ibrahim, وَإِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبَّهُ بِقَلِمَاتٍ فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ. That we tested Ibrahim with certain kalimat. And he, فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ. He completed, same word, tamam again. He completed them. And when he completed, then we said to him what? Inni ja'iluka linnase imama. I'm making you to be a leader for mankind. Qala wa min dhurriyati. What about my dhurriyat? Qala la yanalu ahdi zalimin. My covenant does not reach out to those who are zalim. What were the tests that Hazrat Ibrahim went through? Imagine you and I were presented with those tests. Would we be able to go through them or not? First test of Hazrat Ibrahim. He doesn't have a son. He doesn't have a daughter. He doesn't have children. Quran itself mentions that when he was old, and the riwayat mentioned that he was in his 80s and 90s, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestows him with his first son. Okay. So he eventually, with the dua that he made, was granted a son. But living a life without any help, it was very difficult for him. And we mentioned that last night, that those who are bestowed children, they are tested by God. and those who are not bestowed children, they are tested by God. You say, well, we understand the ones who don't have any children, how they are tested. But the ones who have children, how are they tested? Well, they are tested when their children grow up and then they abandon their parents, as is the case in the communities and the society that we live in. Put them into old houses and check upon them once in a while. They're going through this test. In fact, they're making this dua, I wish I had never had any children so that I didn't have to see such a day. But nonetheless, Hazrat Ibrahim has this son now, Ismail, alayhi salatu wasalam. Now when he's old enough, guess what? فَلَمَّا بَلَغَ مَعْهُ السَّعْيَ, when he was old enough to help out his father, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we want him back. Imagine you're given a son with all your riyadat, with all your dua at an old age. Now when he's old enough to help out the father, God says what? Give him back to us. It requires courage. What does he do? He goes up to his son. He says, Ya bunayya, or Ya bani, inni ara fil manami an adbahuka, fanzur ma tara. I've seen in my dream that I'm sacrificing you. What is your opinion? First of all, he does not need an opinion. Nabi of Allah, when he sees a dream, his dream is hujjat. His dream is like wahi. It's dreams of you and I who has no proof or no hujjat, none whatsoever. I get a lot of calls, Malana, I saw a dream when I'm doing this. Inshallah khair, give sadaqah. Nothing meant. Nothing becomes wajib. I saw my late father in my dream. What should I do? Give sadaqah on his behalf. You don't have to do anything actually. Your dreams are not bringing any sort of wujub onto you. I saw that I'm in the haram of Imam Hussein. Well, good. Go for ziyarat. That's probably what Imam is telling you. You might have made a covenant. You might have made a niyat that you want to go for ziyarah. You haven't gone there. Imam is coming in your dream. Come for the ziyarah. It's a good thing. But people see all sorts of dreams. Not that there isn't any ta'bir of the dream. There is ta'bir and ta'wil. Quran talks about it. Hazrat Yusuf had the ability to go ahead and interpret the dreams. But it's not necessary that whatever you've seen, you are not obligated to go ahead and perform. I just want to get that out of the way. Because a lot of people see dreams and they get worried. If you get worried, just give sadaqah and inshallah khair. So Hazrat Ibrahim, first test was not having any children. Second test, now he has a child, he has to go ahead and sacrifice him. But he asks his son. You don't have to ask. It's wahi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But he's just showing us that when your child is that old, you do mashwara with him. You consult things, important matters with your children. Don't leave him aside. Don't rush him aside saying, oh, you're kids right now. Hazrat Ibrahim is consulting with his son a matter which God has bestowed upon him. You and I should do the same thing. When children are old enough, consult them. Bring them into important matters of your life. Don't just shun them away saying, oh, they're too young for this right now. That's how you start grooming and that's how you perform their tarbiyat. So he says, Ya bati, if'al ma tumar, satajiduni inshallah min as-sabirin. Oh Allah, do as you've been oh Father, do as you've been commanded. You will find me amongst those who have patience. This is father asking, this is son's answer. That, test was also taken care of. Obviously, God replaced him with the ram and so on and so forth. We were only testing you, Ibrahim. We don't really want you to kill your son. Third is what? Oh, Ibrahim, leave your children, your wife and your child. بِوَادٍ غَيْرِ ذِي زَرْعٍ Ya Rabbi, inni askantu. Oh my Lord, I have placed my family in the land which is غَيْرِ ذِي زَرْعٍ. There's nobody living there. It's a remote area. Imagine you and I are asked to leave our wife and kids to that place, a remote area. We'll be like, no, why would we do so? Hazrat Ibrahim is being asked. He performs that act as well. That was another test of his. Then, when he broke the idols, they captured him, they asked him, did you break all the idols? He said, ask the big one. I said, only if they could speak. I said, here you go. You worship someone that can't even defend itself? Trying to awaken the conscience of the people. He said, throw this man into a fire. A fire was built. They threw him into it. They slung, it was a sling that was made to go out and sling him into it because they couldn't even get close to the flames. Jibreel comes. Oh, Ibrahim, do you need any help? He said, no, I'll ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the help. All are these tests of Hazrat Ibrahim. And he passes a test after test after test. These are the trials that Ibrahim and Nabi Ulul Azm is facing. The closer you are to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more tests you go through. So we mentioned that. Every single person is tested. Nobody spared from it. Second thing that we had mentioned last night was what is it Allah test us by? Recited that ayat of Surah Baqarah, verse number 155. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِالشَّيْءٍ مِنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَالنَّقْصٍ مِنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ. That we will test you by hunger, we'll test you by fear, we'll test you by shortening your wealth with your lives and with your children. Some people over here might say, well, I've been tested with children. I've been tested with wealth. But nobody will say, I've been tested with everything. This is where you find the complete picture and example in Karbala. That there's fear over there. There's hunger over there. There's thirst over there. There's loss of wealth over there. There's loss of lives over there. There's loss of children over there. You find everything in Karbala. So there's a live example for you over there. But Quran says what? It says, وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. And give glad tidings to those who have shown patience. الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. Give glad tidings to these people. Those when they face calamity, what do they say? We are from Allah, and indeed to Him we shall be returning. So that's where patience comes into play. Hazrat Ismail showed the patience. You and I are also commanded to show this patience. Third thing, and inshallah we'll conclude this discussion upon it, is that why does Allah need to test us? What is the need? I, as a preacher or as a teacher, with my students, I need to test them. For example, if I was to tell you that obviously these majalis that we're going through are also an institution. You go through a secular institution, this is your religious institution. If I was to say that after every majlis there will be a Q&A, or after every majlis you will get a test paper or something, right? You'll have to answer questions pertaining to the majlis that you just heard. Because I don't know how much people were able to grasp, how much people were able to absorb, how much people were able to take in. Or it went over their heads, or they did not understand, or they understood but their understanding was, for example, fault. There was fault in their understanding. We need to know that. As a teacher, I am ignorant of my students. So therefore I test them so that I can remove my own ignorance, so that I can learn what is the level of that student, so I can grade them accordingly. Why does Allah need to test? Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alimun bi dhat as-sudur. He's aware of what's hidden inside our hearts. Why does He need to test us? Kind of argument that we get. Why do we need to make dua when Allah knows what I need? He says, no, ud'uni astajib lakum. Ask and I will answer you. And then He says, إِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ. I only answer when you ask. If you don't ask, don't expect any answer from me. So yeah, He knows everything. Inshallah, we'll talk about dua another day. So here the same thing. Why does Allah need to test us? Two reasons, two possible reasons. And these are things that right in front of you. You know these already. I'm just trying to just reiterate, just so that put it in different words, so that we can come to some sort of realization. One reason is so that God can make us understand our worth and value. And what do I mean by that? Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam said, كَفَى بِالْمَرْءِ جَهْلًا أَنْ لَا يَعْرِفَ قَدْرَهُ. It is enough for the ignorance of mankind that he or she does not know their worth and their value. We need to know our value. We are valuables. This world has no value, but you and I have value. This world exists due to us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us, and then He praised Himself. He created the whole universe, He did not praise Himself. When He created mankind, He said what? فَتَبَارَكَ الَّذِي. Rather, He says, فَتَبَارَكَ أَحْسَنُ الْخَالِقِينَ. صَلُّوا عَلَى مُحَمَّدٍ وَآلِ مُحَمَّدٍ. بارك. That glorified is your Lord. فَتَبَارَكَ اللَّهُ أَحْسَنُ الْخَالِقِينَ. So these ayat, sometimes you just forget these ayat. It's good that you guys are mustahzar with these ayat. That Allah praises Himself. That glorified is your Lord. That He is the best of the Creator after having created mankind. So you know your worth. There's a value to insan. And that differentiates us from others. And that's why when Amir al-Mu'mineen was asked in regards to the level of insan, he said insan, he was comparing, someone was comparing insan with angels. He said, who's superior, insan or angels? Imam said, إِذَا مَلَكَ shahwatuhu, or rather, if his aql takes over his shahwat, if his intellect overcomes his desires, then he's better than angels. But if his desires take over his aql, then he's worse than animals. So know your worth, know your value. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to realize. By testing us, we understand what is our worth. Kitne pani mein hai. And that's why you see those people who join armed forces, go into army or navy, such a difficult training that they have, right? They go through such rigorous training. Why? Because if one day they have to be in the battlefield, might happen, might not happen, they do not fail themselves. So you go through this rigorous training to figure out if you're worthy of it or not. That's why not many people pass that exam, and only few are selected. It's difficult. So you and I can understand our hidden inner capabilities. Allah tests us so that we can understand and realize our qabiliyat, our salahiyat, our inner hidden capabilities. What are we made of? Second reason why God tests us is so that we can realize and understand the value of those in our surrounding. That this person who's always good to me when everything is going easy with me, but as soon as there's some financial difficulty that I'm facing, then everybody turns away. Know who's around you. A friend in need is a friend indeed. So that we can understand those who are in surrounding. You've been focused towards me, listening very closely. Just to lighten up the mood, I'll give you two examples. One, Battle of Khaybar. You all know that for 40 days, the Qil'ah and the fort of Khaybar was not won. There was no victory for Muslimin. Prophet says on the 40th day that today I will give the standard and the flag in the hand of someone who's karrar ghayr farrar, and who will bring victory to us. Now, obvious question is, if Prophet knows that Ali is, a lot of people thought that Prophet is referring towards them, but they had already gotten their chance, and they failed at it. He said, I'll give my ra'ya to someone who will bring victory to us. Call Ali. Ali is not feeling well. Oh, call him up. Ali, what's wrong? He said, I have, eyes are hurting. And Prophet, with his lu'ab dahan, he put some of his, saliva onto the eyes of Ali, and it was cured. And he gives this ra'ya in the hands of Ali. I said, why wait for 39 days to give this standard in the hands of Ali? So you can realize those who are in your surrounding, if they are any capable of doing anything. Second example, Battle of Khandaq or Ahzab. Trenches were dug, right? There's a person by the name, a warrior by the name Amr ibn Abduvud. He's standing and mocking the religion, ridiculing Muslimin, and Muslimin sitting with Prophet in their tents. Everybody has their heads down. There's only one young man who wants to go and answer this man. Prophet said, no, sit down. He calls upon Muslimin once again. Who amongst you is able to come and fight me? Nobody wants to look up. It's sort of like that situation when there's like a question answer session going on and a scholar throws a question towards someone. And you don't want to make eye contact because lest you will be called upon. So everybody's looking around, looking down. That was the situation over there. Young man wants to get up. Prophet said, no, sit down. Third time when Amr ibn Abduvud called, nobody got up. Prophet said to Ali, go. Ali gets up and goes. Why third time? So that you can understand and understand the salahiyat of those who are in your surrounding. That when there's difficulty on the religion, who will be answering? Either it's going to be Ali or Ali when it comes to Karbala. Ali goes, responds to Amr ibn Abduvud. He said, you're not equal to me. But he fights him anyway. With one blow, he was able to get on top of Amr ibn Abduvud. But then he removed himself. All of the ashab got scared. He said, Ali had this very good opportunity to finish him off. Why did he let it go? Prophet said, when he comes back, we'll ask him. Ali gets on top of Amr ibn Abduvud again, finishes him off, comes back. People say, why did you leave him when you had that opportunity first time? He said, he spit on my face. And when he spit on my face, there was a possibility that I might strike him with my personal anger. But Ali does not do anything for himself. He does it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I removed myself from that place for a second. And when I was able to gain my conscience back, and I was able to control that anger, I went back onto the job and I finished him off. So here Ali is teaching us something. You and I get angry all the time. When you get angry, change your position. If you're laying down and you got angry, sit up. If you're sitting up and you got angry, get up. If you're up and you get angry, walk away. You know, in relationships, we find, especially in husband-wife relationship, there's a lot of arguments and there's a lot of anger that flares here and there. Not my discussion tonight, but it just came in. And there are a lot of fights, which have basically, you know, it's not even worth talking about, but sometimes it just escalates. Daughter of Imam Khomeini said that my father gave me an advice when I got married. She writes that when I got married, my father said to me, and who's the father? Imam Khomeini. He's a faqih. He's a, mystic. He's an arif. He's a alim. You name it. Imam Khomeini has that. She said he gave me an advice, a fatherly advice. He said to me that when you get in an argument with your husband, which will happen because two people living together, they will have arguments. Whenever he comes at you yelling or angry, don't respond to him right away. Because if you responded right away, nor will it have any effect, but it will only flare his anger and escalate the anger. But if you delayed your response by 5 minutes, let's say, when he has calmed down, if he was at mistake, you will be able to tell him what the mistake was and he'll realize it. She said the funny thing was, my father went and gave the same advice to my husband. So here we understand that both have to play this role, not just the women, but even the men. And that is true. That a lot of time, this anger, and there are so many riwayat in this regards that anger is compared with flames. How do you put out a fire? You extinguish it. With water, go ahead and perform wudu. It will remove this anger that is flaring up at that moment. But nonetheless, These are the two reasons, possible reasons, why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to test us. So that we realize our own worth and we're able to realize the worth and the value of those in our surrounding. Definitely, these are the times, and I'll just give a recap of our discussion from last 2 nights so we can move forward with it, that God tests everyone. You will be tested. If you haven't been tested, you'll be tested tomorrow. But a lot of time people raise this question that why mu'mineen are tested more than غير mu'min. Why mu'mineen are struggling while غير mu'mineen are living a life which is the real life, which we aspire that we had that life. I said that yesterday as well. Well, the thing is, when you are closer, when you are beloved, you are tested right away. If you make a mistake, and it's not contradictory to what I had said last night, when you make a mistake, God gives this test to you right away so that you're able to take care of it right here. But when a غير mu'min makes this mistake, God gives him some leash. Let him have it a little bit more. إِنَّمَا نُمْلِي عَلَيْهِمْ. Right? The ayat of Quran says what? لِيَزْدَادُوا إِثْمًا. We give them time. Maybe they'll be able to correct themselves. But if they don't, they're going to be increasing as far as their sins are concerned. So here we understand how God tests everyone, what he tests us with, and lastly, the reason behind his testing us. There was a great test for Imam Hussein as well. And we see that when he had left the city of Medina, and when he entered the city of Makkatul Mukarramah, Makkah is a place where you find, immunity and security. Anyone who was in sort of trouble would come to Makkah and find this refuge in Makkah. Imam Hussein did the same thing. He enters the city of Makkah on 3rd of Shaban. And when he came, obviously there were lectures that he was receiving from many directions. Majority of the letters had come from a city known as Kufa. A lot of those people who said that Imam, na'udhu billah, made a mistake by going towards Kufa. No, Imam did his homework. He carefully chose the place where people were calling him from. And not just that, he reconfirmed it by sending his ambassador over there. And that's Muslim ibn Aqil. Imam did not just walk into Karbala without doing proper and thorough research about it. He sent his closest companion, his cousin, whom he trusted the most, the one who's the representative of Imam alayhi salatu wasalam. We look at our scholars, they are representers or representation that they have of Imam of our time. Muslim ibn Aqil was the sole representative of Imam Hussein at that time. He's given this task, he leaves in the midst of Ramadan, the month of Ramadan. Imam tells him what to do and where to go. Every final detail was given to him by Imam alayhi salatu wasalam. Today we are all aware of the duties of an ambassador. Duties of a person who is a representative. The one who represents someone else. Ambassador in this day and age does what? His duty is to bring the conflicts of two countries to an end. Bring the two cultures together. And when Imam is sending Muslim ibn Aqil, he knows that he's choosing a man who's aqil, intellect, and who also is patient, who also has forbearance. He possesses all of these attributes, and that's the reason Imam chose Muslim ibn Aqil. Nonetheless, he goes with the letter of Imam. He enters the city of Kufa. Right away, Kufans realize that there's a numayinda, there's a representative of Imam in town. Imam tells him to go to the house of Mukhtar al-Thaqafi. He makes that to be his place of meeting people. People are coming and meeting Muslim ibn Aqil. greeting him. And every time he would read the letter of Imam Hussein, it will bring tears to the eyes of the mu'mineen. They'll weep and they'll cry that Imam of their time is speaking to them. Imam had written to them that I received your letters complaining the son of Muawiyah is not fit for job, and therefore you need an Imam to come and guide you and lead you. I hear what you're saying. And that's the reason I'm sending my representative to you. And if he okays what you have said, and he confirms your signatures, then I will definitely come and guide you towards the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. People will read or listen to this letter of Imam Hussein and they will cry out of joy that their Imam is coming to them. But it wasn't too long before Muslim, when he wrote this letter back to Imam saying what? Imam, don't delay. These people are anxiously waiting for you. Whenever Imam would meet a caravan on the way to Karbala, they would say, Imam, don't go. Imam would show them all the letters that he had. Imam would show them the letter that he had from Muslim ibn Aqil. He said, how can I turn around when my representative is telling me to come? This was the reason Imam was going. But then Muslim's story is very tragic. Does anyone treat an ambassador in this way? Now when Muslim ibn Aqil was preaching and giving the message of Imam Hussein, people of Kufa realized that the governor of Kufa is a very weak man. Asked Yazid to replace him. He was replaced by the person by the name Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad. Lanatullah alayhi. When Ubaidullah entered the city of Kufa, people thought Imam Hussein was coming. He entered in a way that he misled people. And then the way he treated and the way he maneuvered, he sent his people to the houses telling the women, the wives, the sisters, and the children that tell your men to back away and don't be with Muslim ibn Aqil. Because if they accompany Muslim, there's an army of Yazid coming, he will kill all of you. I'm sure you've seen this enacted in that movie, Mukhtar Nama, right? That how all of these men who were with Muslim ibn Aqil, slowly and gradually, they handed over their swords to Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad and they left the scene. In fact, that scene still resonates when Muslim ibn Aqil is leading Namaz-e-Maghrib, there are people behind him. And when he's leading Namaz-e-Isha, people are fleeing the scene. To the extent when he turns around, he finds nobody behind him. How difficult it must have been for Muslim. That a place where 18,000, Baladhari says, all of Kufa was with Muslim. Now he turns around after Salatul Isha and he sees nobody's behind him. Muslim ibn Aqil was a stranger to the city of Kufa. He's never been there before. He's wandering on the streets of Kufa until he ends up at a place. He's sitting down, resting. An honorable lady opens the door and she says that don't stand in front of my house. Go to your home. Then she closes the door. She sees the man hasn't moved. She opens the door again and she says to him, oh man, have you not heard? Did I not tell you to go to your home? I'm an honorable person. If you need something, I can give it to you, but don't sit here. Her name was Tawa. Muslim replied by saying, I don't have a home. Imagine you're a stranger in a city and you don't have a place to go. She said, everybody has a home. What's your name? He said, I'm Muslim ibn Aqil. Muslim ibn Aqil ibn Abi Talib. I'm cousin of Hussein ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib. As soon as she heard that, she said, a representative of my Mawla is sitting in front of me. She said, if I could be of any help to you. Muslim just needs the night to spend somewhere. She lets him in. She gives him a place to rest. Muslim spends the whole night performing the ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This lady has a son, some mention his husband, some say his son, who was working for Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad. He was looking for Muslim all over the city, and until he finds him in his own house. He tells Ubaidullah that whom you're looking for is hiding in my house. Send some people to arrest. Muslim understands that Muhammad ibn Ash'as was sent with some men to go ahead and arrest Muslim ibn Aqil. He wants to leave the house. That lady says, don't leave the house. Fight them from within inside the house. She said, I don't want them to desecrate your house. I don't want them to ruin your house. I don't want them to touch, or I don't want them to desecrate your honor because you're a lady. I would say, oh Muslim, you're so worried about the veil and the hijab of Taw'a. Come to Karbala and see what happened to Zainab bin Kulthum. Allahu Akbar. Then we see that Muslim does not want to stay inside the house. He comes outside of the house. Muhammad ibn Ash'as and his men attack Muslim from all corners. When they're attacking him, Muslim is responding equally, until the extent that Muhammad sends a message to Ubaidullah, send more men. He said, I sent you to arrest one man. You need more people? He said, send all the army that you have. Do you think that you have sent me to arrest an ordinary individual? No, you sent me to arrest a person from the household of Ali ibn Abi Talib. A man who's attacking us, and we need more people. They falsely give aman and security to Muslim, that we will not harm you, and they arrest Muslim ibn Aqil. He knows what is going to happen to him. So he says, I have a few messages, I have a few wasiyah. If you can give this wasiyah to those it belongs to. If executing of the wasiyah is wajib, they say, what is your wasiyah? He said, I am in debt. Go ahead and sell my sword and pay off my debt. And second, give my message to Hussein that don't come to Kufa. Turn around and go back to where he was coming from. Ajrukum Allah. May Allah give you no grief except the grief of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wassalam. Muslim was arrested. He was taken on top of Darul Amara. His head was severed and his body was thrown to the ground, to the extent that when a caravan runs into Imam Hussein asks them, what is the ahwal of Kufa? They say, Kufa, Imam, people's hearts are with you, but their swords are against you. Oh Imam, we saw last in Kufa that the body of Muslim was being paraded through the streets of Kufa. His body was being dragged to different places. But before Muslim had died, he stood on top of Darul Amara and he said, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. You know, the custom that we send salutation to Imam Hussein from far distant was inaugurated by Muslim ibn Aqil. That for the first time, someone said, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah from the top of Darul Amara. When Imam heard that, he was still far away, but he stood up from his place. When he stood up, he said, Alayka salam ya Muslim ibn Aqil. Salam unto you, O Muslim, as well, until Imam receives the news that Muslim had been martyred. He was no longer alive. He says to Abbas, oh Abbas, bring me the daughter of Muslim. The daughter of Muslim was brought. Imam takes the earrings off. Imam puts his hand on the head of the daughter and the yatima of Muslim. She says she's grown up in the same household. Oh Mawla, you are treating me like the orphans are treated. Imam says, yes, my daughter, your father has been killed. Your father is no longer alive, but you're yatim. But as long as Hussein is alive, you will not feel yatimi. I will say, Mawla, you were there to put your hand on the head of the daughter of Muslim, but tomorrow, when you will be killed, who will perform the same thing with Sakina? ألا لعنة الله القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our ibadah tonight. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we are sinful, oh Allah, forgive our sins. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to treat us with His mercy on the day of judgment and not with His adl. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the ability and tawfiq to follow the commands of Masumeen alayhi wassalatu wassalam. We ask Allah to give us the tawfiq and ability to follow the book, Quran Hakim. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten the zuhur of our awaited Imam and make us among the helpers and the soldiers of Imam. Wa akhir dawana and alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Maatami Hussain.